It's been my experience that most folks, whether they'd care to admit it or not, have a dream 17-inch laptop computer that they'd really like to own. Whether that's an impractical and cost-ineffective pipe dream like the PowerBook G4, or a rare and unusual gem like the ThinkPad W700, most people can think of at least one of these fringe laptops that they'd like to possess, but never could quite bring themselves to pull the trigger on. For me, it was this machine, the Dell Precision M6400, the first precision laptop that would adopt Dell's handsome new design language, and a computer that really did seem to have it all. Unfortunately, a variety of excuses kept me from buying one for the longest time, until now, that is, and I'm pleased to report that not only was it worth the surprisingly inexpensive investment, but may even be one of the most epic laptops of all time. In fact, it's my pick for Used Computer of the Year, and in the in-depth review that follows, you're going to see exactly why. Let's take a look. A lot of folks might wonder why this nearly 8-year-old relic would even qualify for such a prestigious position, but it really comes down to this. It's priced right, looks awesome, and has the performance and features to back it up. What really makes this thing special is not just the brilliant 17-inch 1920 by 1200 display, but really the great stuff that this computer can do as a result of having a casing large enough to accommodate that display. And let me show you what I mean with a quick connectivity tour. On the left side, we've got a full-size, full-power FireWire 1394 port. Right off the bat, something pretty unusual for a laptop. Next to that, there's a headphone and microphone jack, a pair of USB ports, power and battery indicator lights, an SD card slot, what I believe is a PCMCIA slot, if I remember correctly, and the optical drive. Most of these actually come with a slot-loading optical drive, although I have seen a conventional unit as well. Yes, the optical drive is on the wrong side of the computer, but by the end of this video, I think you'll agree that we can forgive that minor complaint. The right side has an express card slot, wireless switch, gigabit Ethernet jack, USB, and a USB or eSATA connector. That gives it a total of 4 USB ports on the computer alone, but that's not all. Right next to those, there's a VGA port and a DisplayPort connector, which does carry sound. This means that it can be used with an inexpensive passive HDMI adapter and hooked directly into an AV system or television with speakers for both digital audio and video. Due to the fact that the analog and digital audio output streams are not independent, I can't call it a perfect setup, but it's certainly better than having no digital audio output at all. And we'll go more in depth on the chipset here in a moment. The front of the machine is empty, save for the latch, just how it should be. The latching mechanism, unlike the one on my ThinkPad T61P, is excellent. It feels and sounds great, very premium. While the outer casing is a fine silver aluminum, the inside is a black plastic, which is still reasonably luxurious and well decorated. It's a smooth plastic, so it can tend to wear, but most of the M6400s that I've seen have held up pretty well, even under extensive use. The Backlit Keyboard is phenomenal and extremely comfortable to type on. Number crunchers will rejoice at the inclusion of a numeric keypad, which is expected for this wide of a computer. Above the keyboard are some pretty blue indicator lights for hard drive access, battery, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and cellular. The networking indicator lights do not blink when data is being transferred, but this doesn't really bother me that much as they are quite bright, so it would probably be somewhat distracting if they did. It is also important to note that all M6400s have all of the indicator lights present, even if the computer was not originally equipped with the corresponding radio. Above those is an oversized speaker grill, which looks nice as long as it is kept unsoiled. I can say from experience that this porous surface is extremely difficult to clean, so my best advice is to simply not get it dirty in the first place. The only other thing up here worthy of mention is the power switch, which feels as solid as the ones on Dell's Optiplex towers, and the stylish display bezel. Some speaker grills also come with a fingerprint scanner, which mine did not, but the connector is still populated on the board below for it, so adding a fingerprint scanner is about as easy as swapping the part. While we're up here, the LCD is a Samsung 1920 by 1200 screen with a 16:10 aspect ratio. It's really a safe bet, almost universally, when working with laptops that were originally very pricey, that the screens are excellent, and this one is no exception. There is a slight bit of dithering when displaying pure white, as well as a noteworthy green tint that requires correction, but it's nowhere near as bad as the peanut gallery might lead you to believe.
And the main problem with it is probably the worst screen ever built for the laptop. So don't buy M6400 with CCFL screens.
These computers are also available with a 1440 by 900 panel, usually from Philips, but be aware that I have seen some AU Optronics panels used as replacements, and they are significantly yellower. Back on the base, the trackpad is a sizable Synaptics jog shuttle, and as long as it's not too worn down, it's a very good trackpad. There's also a pointing stick, which doesn't respond quite as nicely as the one on my ThinkPads, but that may just be because I haven't tuned the settings well enough yet, so I'll withhold judgment on that for now. It does at least have scrolling, but unfortunately that middle button by the pointing stick shares functionality with the one next to the trackpad, which means that they can't be programmed to do different things. This normally wouldn't be a bother, but if you're like me and you set it to scroll, then this renders the middle button on the pad pretty well useless because the scrolling can only be controlled by the pointing stick. Not a deal breaker by any means, but still an obvious oversight. The trackpad does have a few other tricks up its sleeve though. Pressing that little white button brings up the jog shuttle. This disables tracking entirely and changes the functionality of the trackpad and dedicates it to the functions of scrolling, panning, and 4 special function keys, which could prove to be useful when editing content, for example, while using the pointing stick or an external mouse for easy access to certain controls. The system is powered by a T9900 Intel Core 2 Duo clocked at just over 3 GHz, although there are a wide variety of Core 2 Duo and Core 2 Quad processors that this system will support. Graphics are handled by a dedicated NVIDIA Quadro FX 3700M or 2700M with a whole gigabyte or half gigabyte of video memory respectively. But one of the neat perks of this type of system is that the GPU is actually upgradable. It's socketed. It's not easy to get to, but it can be replaced or upgraded as necessary. There are only a handful of cards that are compatible, but it's sure better than nothing, and that's not even the only unique expandability that this system offers. On the bottom, 2 screws secure the main access panel. Even this thing is metal. It feels very nice. Anyway, underneath that, one can see the dual fan cooling system and some more of its impressive expandability. While most 15-inch laptops have only 1 or 2 memory slots, this thing has 4, sporting a healthy 12 gigabytes of DDR3. Most 15-inchers also only have 1 or 2 PCI Express slots, but this thing has 4. And most notebooks only have room for 1 hard drive, but the M6400 shatters expectations once again by offering spaces for 2, going as far as including the bracket, connector, and screws for the second drive, even if not originally equipped. It even supports the use of RAID, although your choices for that are a bit limited with only 2 disks. Still, it's better than 1. The processor and GPU get dedicated cooling fans, each exhausting out the back. While we're down here, I'll also point out that all M6400s come with all of the antenna wires pre-installed regardless of if the computer was originally equipped with Bluetooth or cellular cards. So adding that functionality is as easy as buying the card, popping it into the slot, and plugging in the pre-wired antenna cables. The pre-installed Wi-Fi system in most of these is a reasonably nice Dell-branded dual-band wireless N card with 3 antenna hookups, although they are also available with higher-end Intel modules. The nice thing about Dell systems is that they'll accept any type of card rather than just the models whitelisted in the BIOS, as is common practice with HP and Lenovo. So with all that hardware, what can one expect to do with one of these things? Well, a heck of a lot more than the cheap, ugly crap that they sell for $300 at Walmart these days. These things will run Windows XP, Vista, or 7 with full driver support from Dell. Windows 8 might also work, but I haven't tested it. Windows 8.1 and 10 are unfortunately not recommended by me due to the rather unusual Synaptics Jog Shuttle pointing device not having a driver for anything newer than Windows 7.
Believe me.
I tried. It won't let it happen, at least not with the drivers that are currently available, that is. The supported operating systems should run just fine on this thing, though. Remember last year when I said that I could tolerate Windows 10 because of its superior high-density monitor support? Well, guess what? With the Dell Precision M6400, I can actually have my cake and eat it too. That is to say that I can have a 1920 by 1200 screen, but because of the fact that it is larger, the need for scaling is eliminated, so I can enjoy the high resolution without having to fall victim to Microsoft's being late to the high-density monitor party. Third-party software fills in the rest of the holes that Windows 7's lack of built-in wallpaper and monitor features leaves, so I'm pleased to report that I've finally been able to give up this 18-month flirtation with the train wreck that is Windows 10. I'm not saying that it doesn't have any redeeming qualities, but it's just not worth the headache for my daily driver, where I prefer to have a computer that just works. And the Dell Precision M6400 does exactly that, and more. Not only does it work smoothly and look pretty, it also has a bit more muscle thanks to that beefier video card, and while it probably isn't best suited as a gaming computer for newer titles, older titles from just a few years ago actually work fine. Here's Ghostbusters the video game running better than it did on the Xbox 360. And here's the Stanley Parable turned up to full specifications. That's to say nothing of arcade favorites like Dig Dug Deeper and Moto Racer.
Dropped a mustard. This is the second mustard I've gotten in this game.
It's also strong enough to handle some heavier 3D emulators. Take a look at
Crazy Taxi 2
running at native resolution with almost perfect frame rate. And here's Mario Kart Wii playing at 720p resolution. It might not sound like such a grand accomplishment these days, but truth be told, I'm not really a gamer, so this is totally adequate for me. And the added horsepower does wonders for day-to-day desktop operations. Even when all three of my monitors fill up with browser windows and tabs, documents, spreadsheets, emails, and video editing, the precision never skips a beat. Everything about this machine is done both above and beyond and in style. Even the massive 210-watt AC adapter is a work of art. This really has to be some of Dell's finest work, and it doesn't even stop there. Attach the dock to this beast, and the connectivity gets even better, transforming this thing from a laptop into a portable desktop PC. While the mighty Quadro FX3700M cannot support the use of 3 monitors simultaneously, my pluggable UGA works just as well on here as it did on the T61P, providing the ability to drive a badly needed third monitor to round things out. The dock may not support desktop video cards like the infamous 2503 dock on the ThinkPad, but I'd say that the support for upgrading the graphics inside of the laptop itself more than makes up for this shortcoming. If you're wealthier than I am, you may also wish to check out the Dell Precision M6400 Covet, which offers all the fun features of its more humble counterpart, but does so in orange. And with a fancier glass edge-to-edge screen, which is backlit by way of light-emitting diode, compared to the conventional backlighting of the base model. Regardless of which one is chosen, I don't think that there's even a wrong answer. Both machines look really nice. The casing is probably more durable than that found on the ThinkPad, but definitely not as rugged. It's a bit like going from a base model Tahoe to an Escalade ESV. It loses the compact convenience and go-anywhere attitude of the lesser machine, but makes up for it in terms of brute force and attractive styling. You also lose the dial-up modem. So with all this good stuff, where does the Dell Precision M6400 fall short? Well, very few places, truth be told. If you don't count the inconveniences of size and weight, the only noteworthy shortcomings of this system is its lack of multimedia controls on the keyboard and its lack of driver support for any Windows operating system newer than 7. And those really are very minor bummers in the grand scheme of things. This system still works and looks great, and you can't beat getting what was originally a $2,500 computer for less than $100 and equipping it with a dock and some supplemental memory for less than $50 more. With that, I've got a complete system that beats the pants off of anything they're selling today at Walmart for $500 or less in terms of not only price, but also performance, aesthetic design, and all-around usefulness and expandability. This is a system I can see myself getting some serious mileage out of, and so it is for that reason why I'm giving it my endorsement for Used Computer of the Year. And with that, this is Browning Gate signing off. Thanks for watching.
This is the second mustard I've got in this game.